Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's LandonRemixes here, and Happy New Year! It is finally time for some brand new content, and what better way to kick off the year than with a Monstercat release. This is going to be the 4th studio EP from the Pegboard Nerds. This one is called Nerds by Nature. Now, if you've heard of Monstercat and you haven't come across a Pegboard Nerds release, there's a good chance you've been sleeping under a rock. Pegboard Nerds is a duo comprised of the Norwegian producer Alexander Odin and the Danish producer Michael Parsberg, both who have been making music since the early 90s but didn't form the Pegboard Nerds until about 2011. And needless to say, they ended up gaining international fame primarily for their early releases on Monstercat, but also because of their collaborations with Cruella back when they were still a trio. In the past, the Pegboard Nerds have been widely recognized for their contributions to the bass music scene, but have more recently hit the mainstream with a number of radio singles. The most recent, Superstar with Cruella and Nightmare, ended up being one of their biggest successes to date. I even remember hearing Pink Cloud, the title track off their last EP, on the radio at a JCPenney store, which was really cool considering the track was a Monstercat release. Everything else aside, I actually have a ton of respect for these guys, and not just for their contributions to music. Although I didn't absolutely love the Pink Cloud EP, if you guys remember the rapid fire review that I featured that one on, I think they did something really amazing with it in the way that they donated all the profits from it toward breast cancer research. And because of that, I look very brightly back on that EP, even if I didn't love the musical content on it. Now, the difference between that EP though and Nerds by Nature is there was definitely an overarching theme with Pink Cloud. Everything was much brighter than the Pegboard Nerds have ever done. It could barely even be called bass music, even though the primary genre theme throughout the EP was future bass, of course. Everything sounded much brighter and happier than they had ever really experimented with prior to that release. Nerds by Nature follows very awkwardly in the trail of the Pegboard Nerds sound on the Pink Cloud EP, as well as a slew of dubstep releases in 2016, and a very star-studded lineup of collaborations, I might add, like All Alone with Grabbits, Superstar with Cruella and Nightmare, like I already mentioned, Weaponize with Miyu, and then of course there was Deep in the Night with Snails, who is absolutely dominating the dubstep charts right now. Nerds by Nature was originally set to be released as the Pegboard Nerds debut LP, and it very well could have been if they would have thrown all these collaborations onto it, but for some reason they chose not to. Now, I don't want to say I dislike the EP because of the lack of those appearances, but that's honestly kind of how I feel. In 2016, the Pegboard Nerds really seemed to know where they were going with their musical direction. But with this EP, you wouldn't be able to guess that at all because Nerds by Nature is so unbelievably scattered. In terms of an overall theme, I'm not really seeing a concept when it comes to Nerds by Nature. Unless, of course, the Pegboard Nerds are trying to pluck out their sounds from their different eras as a duo. With Melody Mania throwing back to their early days as a duo, this one actually reminds me a lot of Disconnected, which was one of their first big hits. Talk About It, the only vocal feature on this EP, sounds like it was an unfinished demo from the Pink Cloud EP. And then, of course, Go Berserk and Bamf representing the Pegboard Nerds 2016 BROSTEP direction. But then there are two tracks on this EP that are at total opposite ends of the spectrum for me, and that's Speed of Light and Blackout. Back when I first heard this EP in early November, I actually really didn't like Speed of Light at all, but coming back to it more recently, it's probably my favorite track on the EP. It's by far the most progressive track the Pegboard Nerds have ever done. Strangely enough, it's not even at a progressive house tempo, it's more like a drum and bass tempo. On top of that, it's easily the most experimental work that Nerds by Nature has to offer, mixing in ambient elements, which I thought was so dope. As I mentioned though, there is a track on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and that's Blackout. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate Blackout. In fact, I think I listed it as one of my favorites on the Monstercat 5-year anniversary compilation album, but man, this track does not fit at all on this track list. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it has no place being on this EP at all. It is by far the oldest release on this EP, and like I said, it probably would have made more sense if they would have put other 2016 singles on it, but there isn't. This is the big outlier on this EP. It just makes no sense. And especially with the track coming at the very end of the EP, in my opinion, it just made a very weak closer. So that's about it when it comes to Nerds by Nature. Not a whole lot of innovation and not really too much of a theme either. I am feeling a light 4.5 out of 10 for this one. As always, I do have the Spotify link in the description if you guys want to go check out this one for yourselves. As always, I'm LandonRemixes. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you later. Peace.